The Houston Texans have made some significant improvements on the team, but most of the new faces have been over on defense. Let's find CJ Stroud some new friends and some more firepower. Let's do a mock draft. Welcome into the channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Let's talk some Texans, and let's do a mock draft and find some more offensive weapons for CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was phenomenal last year. One of the best rookie seasons of all time by a quarterback, and he helped elevate Nico Collins to a totally new level. Tank Dell had a fantastic year. Noah Brown had a couple of impressive, incredible performances, but you can always add to the equation on offense. You can never have too much when it comes to offense. Now, I like the approach the Texans have taken this offseason. They've added to the defense, and I love Danielle Hunter and Danico Autry on the defensive line. Azeez Al-Shire is a big investment and a big upgrade over Blake Cashman, and I'm even kind of intrigued to see how this cornerback situation plays out with Jeff Okudah and C.J. Henderson fighting for that spot opposite Derek Stingley at cornerback. But there could be a little bit more on offense. They've invested in the offense. Sure, the offensive line was already expensive. They brought back Dalton Schultz at a big number and traded for Joe Mixon. But again, just two names that are new over on the offensive side this offseason so far. It's Joe Mixon at running back and David Sharp, a backup offensive lineman. So let's put this mock draft together and let's find CJ Stroud some firepower. Now, we're going to focus on adding offense. Maybe that's multiple wide receivers. Maybe that's tight ends, plural. Maybe it's a running back and a couple of other offensive players. We're not going to totally ignore defense. If somebody fantastic ends up in the Texans' range, we're going to do it. But let's get to mocking here on the Mock Draft Simulator. We pull up the Pro Football Focus Mock Draft Simulator. Middle of the road care for positional value. Some teams have reached a little bit on a player here or there, specifically the Detroit Lions last year with a linebacker and a running back as high as they picked them. And teams don't always draft for need, but it does play a factor, so I kind of put it in the middle. Nothing crazy, nothing weird going on. Like Caleb Williams should go number one in this mock draft. 4 rounds, a handful of picks here for the Texans, 2 in the second. Obviously, 1 in the third and 2 in the fourth. Let's find out if we can get C.J. Stroud those weapons that I believe he needs. So let's get started. Not really a player that I'm dying to trade up and go get. And Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't drop. Neither did Malik Neighbors. Rome Odunze didn't make it out of the top 10. There go the top 3 wide receivers. There goes the top tight end in Brock Bowers. Let's see what happens when it comes to some of these big-time wide receivers dropping down. Okay, Brian Thomas Jr., another wide receiver off the board. Some cornerbacks starting to come off the board. I'd probably move away from the offense if the right cornerback was there. Okay, so here we are just at the end of the first round. Already, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., Brock Bowers, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are off the board. Do I feel like the Texans need to move up here in this area to go get a wide receiver? And you look, all these teams, the Pro Football Focus needs on them. Wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. You can never have too many. I don't want to use any of the draft capital. I don't want to have to give up one of those fourth rounders just to move up 10 or so picks to go get somebody. I'm going to take a risk here that somebody in a very deep wide receiver class is available at 42. The draft continues. 9 teams pick it here in the second round before the Texans. And my goodness, did the wide receiver run start to happen. Guys that I love in this draft, like Ladd McConkey from Georgia and Xavier Legette from South Carolina come off the board. Troy Franklin, one of my absolute favorites in this draft, is off the board. Keon Coleman, who didn't test great at the combine, but worked out great in the workouts and is a unique individual. But there's still options here. There's still options. I like Tyler Nubin. He's a really nice safety. He would be a immediate special teams impact and factor into the safety situation pretty early on for the Texans. But this is an offensive draft. We want weapons. We want weapons. And with it being deep at wide receiver, there's plenty of options. Really, any of these 4 names right here would make a lot of sense at 42 overall. I really like what Roman Wilson has been able to do here in the draft process. He was incredible at the Senior Bowl. He's probably the best player at the Senior Bowl on offense, and maybe the best player overall, with only Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo being anywhere close to him. But when they went one-on-one, Roman Wilson took care of business against Quinyon Mitchell. Another wide receiver at the Senior Bowl who was incredible is Ricky Purcell from Florida. Pretty Ricky. White Boy Rick, however you want to say it. All the different Rick names. He is a name that is pretty intriguing. I know a tad bit more about Roman Wilson. The inside-outside versatility gets me really excited. Kind of a Will Fuller type ability to get deep on plays, but can also play from the slot. Worked a lot to improve route running for this team. Rome wasn't built in a day, but Roman Wilson was a day 2 selection in this mock draft. Michigan wide receiver Roman Wilson comes off the board. Enos Rakestraw Jr., let's pause and look at this real quick. He's a worthwhile consideration at 42. He's a different style of cornerback, but the Texans have so many cornerbacks already on the roster. I don't know if they would do that, but he's a really nice player. If he's available at 42, it'd be very hard for me to pass up on Rakestraw Jr. But again, we're trying to get weapons for CJ Stroud. If you outscore everybody, you're not losing. Who cares about defense? Let's go find some more weapons there for CJ Stroud. Couple of really nice corners coming off the board. A couple of linebackers coming off the board. There goes Pretty Ricky. He's off the board. Jermaine Burton, another wide receiver. That's an intriguing player. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball here. A lot of teams want to trade with the Texans for some reason. Let's take a look and see if there's some tight ends or some running backs, maybe another wide receiver. Nobody that I really want to go right back to the well at wide receiver. Maybe if some of these names like Malachi Corley or Jacob Cowing start to fall a little bit. But again, you draft a wide receiver in the second round with the wide receivers you already have on the roster, and someone's getting booted off. You're not drafting a guy in the second round and all of a sudden he's not going to be on the team. So let's take a look at that tight end position. Jatavian Sanders is such an interesting player to me. He was super productive at Texas, but it feels like every game he limped off the field, and maybe the blocking is not totally exactly what you want, but he's a really fun player, an incredible pass catcher, and I know there's some options there at tight end a little bit later. I like Stover, Sennett. I don't like Theo Johnson as much, but he's an intriguing player. It's pretty tough for me to pass up in an offensive-centric draft one of the better tight ends. In fact, this would be tight end number 2 in the draft. Jatavian Sanders, come on down. You're tight end number 2. You're also a number 2 round pick, and your number 2 pick for the Texans in the second round. A lot of 2s. That didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Jatavian Sanders, the pick here. Again, we're not ignoring defense. If the right defender is there, love to see the Texans add that player, but trying to get some weapons here for CJ Stroud. Add to that offense, make it easier to score points. Tavondre Sweat, if he dropped all the way to the third round, probably would have been a selection for me. Jalen Wright, the running back from Tennessee, would have been a guy. I just saw Max Melton, the cornerback from Rutgers, come off the board. So some very intriguing names are on the board. Cameron Kitchens, I know a lot of people, I hear about him in the comments section a ton. People love Kitchens from Miami. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., big name. I don't know if the big play catches up with him just yet. I'm not focusing a ton on offensive linemen. The Texans have so many offensive linemen. They've got so many interior offensive linemen as well. I wonder if I could find the right defensive back or the right defensive lineman here. You start to look at some of these names. I really like Cole Bishop. DTD, as he's known. I like to call him TNT because he is explosive. Kitchens feels like a really intriguing player. Is there somebody on the interior defensive line that would make a lot of sense? I don't care about these interior offensive linemen. Get them out of here. And nobody that you're just dying to have from that standpoint. Is there an edge guy that would make a lot of sense? No, not really. Not really. I like Jalen Harrell, but that's way too early for him. All right, let's take a look at the running backs. There's so many. Marshawn Lloyd and Braylon Allen and Will Shipley. And man, I'd love to go back to the wide receiver well, but again, a third-round pick, he's making the roster. So you've got 4 picks, you got really 4 wide receivers, probably 5 wide receivers locked in if you select 2 wide receivers in this draft, which isn't a bad thing. For sure Nico Collins, for sure Tank Dell, and then Noah Brown brought back, contract up to $5 million. You'd think he's there. That's 3. Well, we already drafted 1 wide receiver, and if we drafted another one, you're locking him in. He's for sure going to be on this team. It's not a bad idea. Trey Benson is a big-time prospect. People love him. Man, I'm going to add some safety help. I'm going to add some depth. Kinchins may not be ready to go right away, but he can help you on special teams right away and then play into that safety spot, which, of course, Jimmy Ward's contract is up at the end of the year. Jalen Petrie, is he going to bounce back? Let's add a safety. I know we're getting firepower. I know we're getting offense. I know this is kind of a long wait for some of these offensive players to show back up on the board because the Texans pick late in the 3rd and then they pick late in the 4th. Again, remember, that's the Philadelphia Eagles pick that they have, but the Texans pick is also kind of late there in the 3rd round. The issue with winning, if you will, you got to wait a lot longer on draft day. Haven't seen a ton of running backs go off that I'm just like, oh man, wish the Texans had got him. Bo Limmer is a center from Arkansas that's getting a lot of buzz. I saw a mock draft that put him on the Texans. They don't need a center unless that guy is a no doubt knockout, gotta play day one type of guy. It doesn't really seem like that is the situation. So we are back here at 123. We've also got 127. We've drafted a wide receiver, a tight end, and a safety, trying to add some more firepower to this team. Is there a wide receiver that just immediately jumps off the board? No. I like Luke McCaffrey's a favorite. I hear about him in the comment section a lot. Malik Washington is a guy that is getting a lot of buzz here in the latter part, but I don't really want to go wide receiver. Is there a running back that right away jumps off the board? Okay, this is an intriguing one here. Braylon Allen as your hammer, your run between the tackles, and much younger than most every other draft prospect, just around 20 years old. And then Will Shipley, who's more of a, he's going to say he's a do-it-all back. He said at the Combine, I'm the best do-it-all back here at the Combine and in the draft. But he's more of a pass catcher. Like, you throw him the ball a lot, and maybe he can help you out on special teams. Isaac Garindo was stupid fast at the Combine. So fast that it makes it hard to just get away from that speed. We're talking about explosive. We're talking about weapons. We're talking about adding team speed. We already added Roman Wilson, who is really fast. Sanders is a big-time athlete. Garindo would be a really fun addition. Let's see if there's a tight end. Another tight end, that gets us up to 5 tight ends, 6 if you count Andrew Beck as a fullback / tight end. And then you're thinking about, okay, are they keeping 4? Are they keeping Dalton Schultz, Brevin Jordan, and the 2 rookies? It becomes a hard time seeing exactly how or why they would do that, as much as I would love to have Cade Stover and Jatavian Sanders and just turn the offense into just this rumbling engine that can do it all. You can go speed with Tank Dell and Roman Wilson and Nico Collins, or you can go beat some people up by putting Sanders and Schultz and Stover on the field. It can't help you right away. I'm going running back. And as much as I'd love the hammer that Braylon Allen has from a physicality, short yardage standpoint, and what Will Shipley brings to the table from a pass catching standpoint, I got a need for speed, and Garindo was super fast at the Combine. He's the pick, and we're right back here on the clock. Now, Cooper Beebe is a player that got a lot of love from defensive linemen at the Combine. A lot of people talked about how he was one of the tougher, meaner, and more impressive offensive linemen that they played, including surefire first-rounder Byron Murphy saying that Beebe was one of the toughest guys that he went against. You start looking at just the top part here of this draft class, and it's like, okay, what do you want here? What do you want? Do you want maybe a linebacker like Ced Gray who can help you out with special teams and maybe grow into a role on on the defense? Do you want some more defensive linemen? A lot of defensive linemen already, and certainly a lot added by the Texans. Do you go with another corner and you add yet another body to that equation? You're not drafting a backup quarterback here. That would be a waste of a 4th-round pick. Man, I just wonder, just would one more body on the offensive line kill him? Like, with all the injuries, Kendrick Green and Kenyon Green both ending up missing the season, with the issues that Titus Howard has had. Shaq Mason was an Iron Man, but Shaq Mason, he plays a physical position inside. He's due for an injury, a little bit older of a player. Juice Scruggs was hurt. Could you justify a new face on the offensive line? It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. But I can't get past the fact that surefire 1st-rounder, my favorite defensive tackle in this draft, Byron Murphy, said Cooper Beebe was a bad dude and hard to go against. This goes against so many things in my being, in my soul, but I don't want to run out of options along the offensive line. The more bodies and the more talented bodies, the better. Add another interior offensive lineman. I can't believe I'm doing this. Did a ghost take over my body and do this? Oh, no. Cooper Beebe, the Kansas State offensive lineman, probably a guard here at the NFL level. And that will wrap up our 4-round mock draft. Let's see what the mock draft simulator gives us for a grade. Didn't love the Kitchens pick. Didn't love Garindo either. Liked Beebe, Sanders, and Wilson. Overall, a B grade. And that's about what I would give this draft as well. Kitchens is a very polarizing prospect. We'll dig into that in the month of April about some of the things that he can or can't do, or does he help right away, mentality and things like that. I know he talked about how Mario Cristobal was on him a lot at Miami. But this is a draft that added some significant offensive talent and some significant faces for CJ Stroud over on offense. These top 2 are the ones that you write home about, Roman Wilson and Jatavian Sanders, adding to that equation, giving you your top 4 wide receivers of Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, and Roman Wilson. Figure out the other 2 spots. Your top 3 tight ends, Brevin Jordan, Jatavian Sanders, and Dalton Schultz. And then your running back room getting a speed infusion. Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, Isaac Garindo, speed infusion into that running back room. And then yet another option just in case that offensive line injury bug rears its ugly head. So that's the mock draft for offense. We didn't add a ton of weapons. I mean, we could have added just nonstop wide receivers and tight ends, but that's not realistic. We added a good depth piece on defense. We had a good depth at the back part of this draft in the 4th round. Then we added 2 guys that can help you day 1 over on offense in Roman Wilson and Jatavian Sanders. You watched the mock draft. How did I do? Let me know in the comment section down below what you would have done different with this mock draft and the hope to add more offensive talent for CJ Stroud. Getting him some new friends over on the offensive side. So the meeting room has its fair share of new faces to get excited about over when the offense gets together. Ton of new faces over on defense, not as many on offense. There'd be some new ones here with this mock draft. Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You don't want to miss out on anything we got planned in April. It's going to be huge in April. You won't want to miss out on it. So subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait till we talk Texans and mock Texans again soon.